Hey there! Kyle Boone, aka Strong Jaw, staff writer at CBS Sports. Welcome to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel. We're back for another special episode today. Jerry Palm is here, talk some bracketology banter, and we've already got a stare down to start this show. That is paying homage to the one and the only Iowa's Fran McCaffrey, who over the weekend had one of the weirdest encounters with a Big Ten official that you will ever see. Stared down an official with Iowa trailing by 11 points with 2 minutes left. Got a technical, and all Iowa did was go on a crazy run to force overtime, end up winning the game over Michigan State. Jerry Palm.
He didn't get a technical for the stare down. He got a technical before the stare down, right?
That's right. He got a technical about 30 seconds before that, and then stared down the official, basically what appeared to be in protest of the technical. So, Jerry, as a former official, we need your official take. Is that an acceptable protest from Mr. McCaffrey? And what would you have done if you were the official in this situation? Because it wasn't just a stare down. McCaffrey actually started walking towards the official. The official started walking towards him. I thought they were going to pull out the holsters and go full Westerner. It's wild.
Pull out the squirt guns or something. Yeah. Fran is such a child. And he shows it all the time. He has a temper he can't control. I was trying to give you my best stare down face, but I don't have enough genuine anger at you to actually be able to do it well. But when I was in high school, that's an automatic T. I mean, that's no question. But this isn't high school; it's upper level Division I college basketball. So I'm not going to criticize the ref for taking it. And he actually kind of mocked him a little bit, which I sort of appreciate that subtle mock. I'm going to stare you down too, but I'm not going to have any anger. I'm just going to stare at you. And so I actually kind of appreciate his response. But it's just Fran the league should fine him for that. Not suspend him. Let's not get carried away. But that kind of a thing should cost him some money. He should understand that you can't really do that. You can't act like a child. You're the head coach of the basketball team. Those guys are the children, if you will. And they're adults, of course, most of them. But you can't be the child in the room. You have to be the adult in the room.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think he probably would have gotten a technical had he not just gotten a technical. So another technical, he would have been done. And
I don't think refs care about that. That's his choice to be thrown out, not yours.
Right. That was outstanding patience from the official, I would say, because someone does that to me. Sorry, you're gone. That's
Well, like I said, in high school, that would be automatic. But the standards are a little different in high school in terms of tolerance.
That's exactly right. So that was part of a wild weekend in college basketball, maybe the most action-packed college basketball weekend we've had to date. It's really fantastic. Lots of crazy buzzer beaters, a lot of comeback wins. Iowa mounts a crazy come-from-behind win to knock off Michigan State in overtime. Let's jump in and talk some bubble, because that's why we have you here. You dropped a new bracket on Monday morning, and I think we'll start with Sunday on CBS. Michigan defeated Wisconsin in overtime, a double bubble showdown, as it was termed in your article. Hunter Dickinson made a three at the buzzer in regulation to force overtime. Michigan escapes in overtime. Where do you have the Badgers now, Jerry Palm? Who they haven't won consecutive games since early January, but they're still kind of hanging around. And then where do you also have Michigan, who got an important win?
I was just amused as you introduced this little segment talking about all the action-packed stuff we had this weekend, and we started the show with no action at all. But Wisconsin is still last four in. Michigan is now the number one team out, so the gap between them closed. But you have to understand that this is a home win between peers. It completes a season split between these teams, so head-to-head isn't really a factor when you compare them. And Wisconsin is still better among the quad one teams that has more better wins. And really, if they could defend their home floor, they would be very comfortably in the bracket. They will only get one more chance to defend their home floor against new Big Ten champion Purdue. on Thursday night. But and then Chucky Hepburn got hurt in this game, so they're going to need him going forward because he's a key player for them. But Michigan has really come on strong late in this season and has a chance, if they can continue to play at this level, they have a chance to play their way not just into the bracket, but maybe comfortably into the bracket.
Yeah. So let's. I buried the lead here. I talk about action, then I go to Michigan and Wisconsin. The real action was in the Pac-12. First of all, Arizona State knocked off Arizona in a buzzer beater. Pretty stunning. Arizona was a 13-point favorite, and then Miami in the ACC blows a 25-point second half lead, loses to Florida State. Yuck. Two teams that I think are pretty clearly in the NCAA tournament field, Arizona and Miami. But how did those results impact your bracketing and your projections for Monday?
Yeah, well, each of those teams lost a seed. And Arizona might have actually supplanted Purdue on the top line of the bracket. I didn't really look at it that closely, but it was in my head that might be something worth looking at had they won, but they didn't. And boy, was that a great shot or what? That's like a 55-foot swish. It hit nothing but net. That's a tremendous shot and gives Arizona State a chance to possibly play their way into the tournament. I mean, that was a huge win for them, something they desperately needed. They're not there yet either, like Michigan. But now they've got something of a chance. So unfortunately, they're still playing Pac-12 teams, although I believe they'll get UCLA this weekend, and that could help. But for Miami, I mean, that's a collapse. I mean, you take your foot off the gas against your in-state rival. You don't expect Florida State, the way they played this year, to be able to mount that kind of rally, but there it was. And now you're saddled with a quad 4 loss on your home floor, and that's not going away. The Miami's ceiling got lower because of that game on Saturday and that loss to Florida State. They are still one of the 3 top teams in the ACC, but Virginia also lost over the weekend. Yeah. There's a chance that the entire ACC could be outside the top 30 of the net by the time this is all said and done. Right now, there's only 2 teams there. Virginia's 28 and Duke is 24. Wow. Why I draw the line at 30 is home wins over teams in the top 30 of the net count as quad 1. It's entirely possible that the entire ACC could not get a home win in conference play if everybody finishes below 30 in the net.
It's crazy. ACC's having a historically bad, ugly, no good year.
I think it's still better than last year.
Okay. It's pretty bad, though. It's pretty bad.
Horrible. Yeah.
And every time it seems like a team is ready to take the ACC, Miami stumbles, Virginia stumbles, Pitt is looking like it can win the league. So just a crazy year in the ACC. Miami blowing a 25-point lead. ACC record comeback from Florida State. Let's talk Arizona, UCLA. You mentioned those 2 teams. You mentioned Arizona. UCLA is up to the number 2 seed line for you. Arizona down to a number 3 seed. So is that just basically a flip based off how this weekend went? Because UCLA won, Arizona lost. Now we have them UCLA number 2 seed, Arizona a number 3 seed.
They were actually both 2s.
Okay.
But Arizona was ahead of UCLA in the pecking order, and now they're behind. In fact, behind enough that they're now at 3. UCLA's had a great season. They only have 4 losses. There aren't any bad losses among them. The worst was at USC, which is maybe a tournament team, currently a bubble team, and currently in the bracket. But their best wins are Kentucky and Maryland, and those are middle of the bracket teams. And if you want to compete with the teams that have got the strong resumes ahead of them that are number 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament, you're going to need more than Kentucky and Maryland. You might need Arizona twice just to have a conversation about whether UCLA should be a number 1 seed.
Okay. So that's good context, something to keep in mind as we close out the regular season. Let's go to some more bubble talk here, Mr. Palm. North Carolina, who has been a mainstay on this Bracketology banter show, still hanging around. First 4 out in your latest bracket. They got their first quad 1 win of the season this past week. They beat Virginia. They also got a road win over Notre Dame. What is your current outlook on the Tar Heels? Are they going to sneak into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, quad 1 for now, as we just discussed.
For now, yeah.
North Carolina, I think, is going to need 2 quad 1 wins to really have a solid case to be in the NCAA tournament because they have so many quad 1 losses. And that's, it's not just you can't just be a one-hit wonder and overcome 8 or 9 quad one losses. You're going to have a couple to show the committee. And ideally, they would get one off their home court. Now, that would have to wait for the conference tournament. Duke is currently a quad one opportunity at the end of the regular season at North Carolina. But I think they're going to have to beat somebody substantive in the ACC tournament to really get the committee's attention and make a stronger case for them to crawl onto the bottom of the bracket.
Okay, so North Carolina probably needs at least one more strong win, and maybe North Carolina fans might need to become Virginia fans basically for the rest of the season. So their win over Virginia will hold, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I mean, yes, that obviously, they're not going to start rooting for Duke no matter how many times they beat them. But yeah, you can root for Virginia a little bit.
Okay, very interesting. A lot of net implications down the stretch of this season here. Let's talk top seeds here. Number 1 seeds for you in your latest bracket did remain the same. Alabama, Houston, Kansas, and Purdue are all on the 1 line. First things first, Palm, as a Purdue alum, you still keep Purdue on the 1 line. I've looked at their resume. I think it is warranted, but how close are they to slipping from a 1 seed onto the 2 line? Because they continue to struggle. They've lost, I believe, 4 of their last 6. Still hanging tight, though, as a number 1 seed for now.
Yeah, I've been saying I'm not going to worry about Purdue until they start losing home games. Well, they just lost a home game to Indiana. Indiana shot lights out. I mean, they had 50% from the floor and 46% from 3. And Hood Schifino, I don't know, what he scored, 70? I mean, it was just ridiculous.
70, yes.
Purdue had no answer for him. And that's just, I mean, sometimes it's the other team's day, but Purdue needs to have one of those days be their day here pretty soon if they're going to stay on the top line of the bracket. The loss to Indiana shifted them from 3 overall to 4. Had Texas won, Texas would have supplanted Purdue. So that's how close they are. As it is, Texas stayed back, still 5th overall, but still behind Purdue. So, Purdue will be a 1 seed if they win at Wisconsin and beat Illinois in the conference finale. Season finale, and then don't stub their toes against somebody they shouldn't in the conference tournament. And if you're the conference champion, everybody is somebody you shouldn't. But they can take a loss maybe in the conference tournament and still be a 1 seed. But I think they need to close the regular season with wins.
Okay, all right. So Purdue trending downwards, still on the 1 seed line. Kind of a wild fall. This was a Purdue team that was number 1 overall seed, kind of with a bullet. Slipped a little bit in the regular season, but still a pretty strong resume on the whole. Something to keep an eye on there, led by a player of the year front runner in Zach Edey. Had a good season and I think have a chance to finish strong. Your 2 seeds now in your latest bracket, Palm: Kansas State, Texas, UCLA, Marquette. 3 seeds: UConn, Arizona, Baylor, and Gonzaga. How close are these? What did you wrestle with most when you're sorting out this group of teams and just how close they all are?
Yeah, and the 2s are closer to the 3s than they are to the 1s collectively. Texas is reasonably close to a 1, but the others are closer to the 3s than they are 2s. And Marquette is the team, by the way, that replaced Arizona on the 2 line of the bracket. And they're having a great season. They're going to win the Big East. Tremendous year for Shaka Smart. And they did well outside the league, too. And that's why they've been able to move up the bracket slowly. But now a number 2 seed, that's not safe because they're in the Big East. There's other good teams. They're going to have a conference tournament, and a lot can happen between now and then. But a great run for Marquette to get to this point. The 3 seeds are all, 2As. I mean, those are all teams that are just a hair behind. And as these teams win and lose, you might see a fair amount of swapping unless somebody starts losing, consecutive games, and then you might see fall out of that group entirely. But yeah, that's a really tight-knit 8-team group.
Okay. All right. So we may see some shuffling throughout this bracket the next couple weeks as Selection Sunday nears, it sounds like. Let's get some Kentucky talk in here. Kentucky has been a mainstay in this bracketology banter discussion, mostly in the same category with North Carolina, right? For a while, we were talking about, is Kentucky going to make the NCAA tournament? Are they going to miss the NCAA tournament? Seems like they're going to make the field now. Kentucky now up to a projected 7 seed in your latest bracket, which would seem to indicate they are, at least for now, safely in the field. They've won 4 in a row. They won twice this week. Beat Auburn by 32 points. They're doing it for the net, running up the score. You love to see it. Thoughts on the Wildcats and their prospects right now?
It kind of reminds me of what North Carolina had to do last year to get in the tournament. If you recall, I mean,
Yeah.
mid-February, we were talking about North Carolina's dead. And then all of a sudden they had to get hot just to make the tournament, got in as an 8 seed, and then ran it all the way to the championship game once they got there. But, Kentucky is doing kind of the same thing. The difference is that Kentucky's doing it in a better league because, as we just talked about, the ACC had the worst year anyone could remember last regular season. So Carolina couldn't resume build the way Kentucky can, and Kentucky is doing as they enter March on a hot streak. So, Kentucky has been able to move up. I haven't had them on the bubble now for a couple of games, and they look like the Kentucky we thought they were going to be. Let's see how they finish the season because Alabama and Tennessee, despite Kentucky's sweep of them, still look like the two best teams in that league.
Yeah. Not quite the preseason top 5 team we expected, but definitely better than the Kentucky team that we saw during the middle of this season where, it looked like they were on the verge of missing the NCAA tournament. That's going to do it for today's Bracketology banter. Jerry Palm, thank you for your time today. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, please go subscribe to the YouTube channel for all the latest episodes. Nada is going to upload this later today. We'll have shorts, more NCAA tournament bracket coverage, and other discussions. And go check out CBSSports.com. Jerry Palm's latest bracket is up and live and probably at the front of the homepage right now. Thank you all for listening. Y'all take care.